Welcome to Black Businesses Matter, a podcast about why Black businesses matter and the benefits of collaborating and advocating for Black businesses to drive impact. Each episode will cover legacy, hope, Black joy, funding sources, cultural shifts, equality, and so much more. We will provide inspiration and action while spreading some joy to a thriving community of Black business owners and leading thought leaders.
I am Larvetta Lofton, your host and the founder of the L3 Agency.
Known as the brand maven who transforms organizations with her storytelling prowess, meet Larvetta L. Lofton, host of Black Businesses Matter, a podcast about why Black businesses matter and the benefits of collaborating and advocating for Black businesses to drive impact.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Black Businesses Matter. I am super excited. You all know I'm always excited to bring guests to the show, especially when I get to bring my dear sister. She's in Chicago because, you know, we do get a whole lot of folks from Chicago, but we get people that are out of Chicago. But I certainly am always blessed when I get my homegirls on the show, because we get to just talk about some of the amazing things that we are working on. And so our next guest is Twyler Jenkins. And I mean, literally, this woman is a vet. Okay. She's a veteran. And I'll let you all kind of I'm gonna allow her to tell her story. But, you know, you all know that this whole season we've been talking about, you know, beauty and wellness, but we've been talking about beauty both internally, as well as externally. So we've had a number of people that I've had the pleasure of interviewing. And so some of them you guys are going to hear from, or some of them you've already heard from. But I'm excited to bring Twyler Jenkins, who is the founder of I Am That Woman Retreat. And so the reason why we wanted to bring her is because she is working with corporate C-suite women, spiritual women, and allowing them to come together and take a moment and have a life of wellness. And so what she is doing is really getting women who, from entrepreneurs to C-suite women, to really come together for a whole retreat weekend. And so we wanted to bring her because, again, you guys, we are talking about wellness, both from, you know, inside, spiritually, mentally, all of that. And so I'm super excited to bring Twyler Jenkins up to really share what her retreat is all about and how she got there, right? How did she wake up and say, hey, this is going to be my life mission, and I want to help change the world and allow for women to be transformed? Because her thing is, it's imperative that we pour resources into ourselves and put our oxygen mask on first. So that is a mouthful, because we hear that when we travel as busy women and busy men, but we don't understand the importance of doing that. And let me just tell you this. Their purpose is to allow women to stop and really breathe. So take a breath and allow me to introduce you to Twyler Jenkins. So Twyler, before we get started to talk about I Am That Woman Retreat, I love to help our listeners to know, who is Twyler as a little girl? Tell me about that little girl.
Wow, what a question. Well, first, let me say thank you so much, Larvetta, and to Katori as well, for having me on your show today. So I definitely appreciate it, especially the subject matter, talking about wellness, because that is my space, my jam, my love right now. And so I really definitely look forward to our conversation in this interview. But to answer your first question, Twyler as a little girl. Well, first of all, a small known fact, and I don't think I've ever told this to anybody except for those who know me. My name was not Twyler as a little girl.
Oh, wow. You heard it first on Black Businesses Matter. Yay. Okay.
So, yeah, I grew up. I'm number 10 of 11 children. And when I came home from the hospital after 4 boys born back to back in January, My dad finally got the answered prayer to have another girl. And my oldest brother, I believe, wanted to name me Charisse. And so my mom said, I really don't care what y'all call her. I'm not going back to the hospital to change her name, but okay. So there was a little girl in our community who had Down syndrome and had passed away. And they were close friends. So they wanted to name me after this little girl, and her name was Charisse. And so from Charisse came another nickname, which actually was the name that I grew up with, and that was Reese. And so growing up, I was Reese Charisse. And so I was my father's little chocolate drop, protected by four brothers who were all, again, we were right stair steps, right in age. There's only 1 year between us. Grew up in southern Indiana on a farm. Can you believe that?
Wow.
And on a family farm, my father was a minister, and uh, he passed in 2007, but my mother, who is still living, is an evangelist. We had a small community church there. And I grew up, kind of loving life, like just living, having a great time with my siblings, and little track star in elementary school and high school. And yeah, little Madison, Indiana. So that was me.
So Twyler, so how did we get to Twyler?
Because that's what my mother named me when I was born. So when I when I became of age to work, 16, and of course you have to get your birth certificate. And in all honesty, that was the first time that I found out my name is Twyler Lynette. And so, so looking at that birth certificate, I told my mom, I said, I think they made a mistake. And and so she said, no, that's your real name. And I was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. And so Reese Charisse to Twyler Lynette, and that's who I really, really am.
Wow, Twyla. So Reese, oh my gosh, like that is so funny. Like I think it's funny because really I don't know that we really come into ourselves till we kind of get to at that point. So it's amazing because that just means that you have alter egos, right? Am I correct?
I guess you can kind of say that, but Reese hasn't been around for a long time, so I hope letting that cat out the bag is not it's
Well,
not
let me say
going to
this.
haunt me.
You know, if somebody starts to call you like, oh, you listen to the episode, that's what they're going to start to call. They're going to be like, hey, Reese, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, they must have listened to the episode. So the cat is out. And so for those that know Twyler Jenkins, she just told us, that she didn't become Twyler till she was like ready to work. Okay. So she is Reese, but don't go on the streets calling her that. But I do want to ask you this, Twyler. What was your favorite subject in school?
My favorite subject in school was definitely English. I am a
Mm.
creative writer to this day.
Mm.
And so in college, my major was actually political science and journalism. And so I figured if there's always going to be government, and there would always be a need for writing. So if those were my two skill sets, I was the double major, that I would always have a job. And neither one of those have been a part of my life for long, but came in handy, that's for sure.
I was going to say it does come in handy because obviously, when I think, because at first when you said politics, I'm like, yeah, but I think, Twyla, I think you do that policy, kind of that political thing very well. So I think there was you were able to exercise some of that, in my opinion. That's what I believe. So I think, and as my father says, if you don't know politics, you don't do business. So that's what my father has always told me. Like you can't be running a business and you don't know how to navigate the politics, So I think that's powerful. So English was your favorite, was your favorite subject, which I think, to who you are today. So I want to introduce the listeners to Weiler in this wellness space and just give them this background of kind of how this came to be. today? Because you've been doing the retreat for now, what, 5 years?
Yeah, I've been actually, the retreat launched in 2018 in Mexico. So 2018, 2019, of course, we went on hiatus and during the pandemic in 2020 and 2021, came back last year, and looking forward to this year again as well.
So tell us, how did you come and arrive that this was something that you wanted to do, to invite women from all over to be able to come together and breathe?
Yeah. So, in all actuality, this happened by a selfish effort of me wanting to do a check in on life. When I turned 43, I had a private dinner for 43 women who were my mentors, my mother, my godmother, women I admired, women in the community and leadership. And I invited them to the Parkway Ballroom for a private dinner to moderate a conversation about womanhood. And me and my life coach at the time, Sherry Franklin, moderated this conversation with girlfriends and younger women who I thought these other mature and seasoned women could pour into. And Sherry and I came up with some questions about essentially three categories: health and wellness, and our relationships, and our spiritual wellness. And so, not knowing this was going to catapult into what it is today, a whole women's wellness movement. But when I told Mrs. Jackson, Reverend Jackson's wife, who was also one of my mentors at the time, when I told her about the idea and the concept, she said, "Twyler, I think you're on to something." She said, I would admonish you to think about not just doing this for your birthday, but carrying it on to some degree. She encouraged me to talk to Santita, her daughter. And she said, because there's a certain power that happens when you get women in the room and they talk to each other. And I wasn't aware of that power, but I witnessed that power at that 43rd birthday party, because we laughed, we cried. I found out things about me from girlfriends I had no idea about. I heard things shared amongst the women about their collective experiences on marriage for many years, or never married, and or never having children. And I mean, just so much was poured into us. And a lot of my girlfriends and some of the mentors said, "When are you going to do that again? Like, that was amazing, that was fun, we need to do that." And so, really, Larvetta, from that, I went back to Mrs. J and I said, I kind of understand what you were talking about. But also, at the time, as I was celebrating that birthday, I was also celebrating my company for 15 years. And so I was kind of searching for my next. I was like, okay, I had the privilege of working with African American organizations and corporations doing corporate meeting planning, conferences. And I was kind of at that point then that said, if I don't do another black tie affair, if I don't, do another conference, I'm kind of good, because meeting planning is the fifth most stressful industry that there is, right behind paramedics, EMT, officers, police officers, firefighters, and military. And then you find event planners, because it's extremely stressful. And so even then, I was kind of looking for something else. And so I got a couple girlfriends together and talked about, is this needed? Right? I was like, I did it for my birthday and it was great, but is this needed? Is this something that has legs under it, that we can actually, create something? And so the answer was yes. And that is how the I Am That Woman retreat was born.
So I want to talk, I want people to understand girlfriends, right? because we're talking about wellness. And I think having, strong girlfriends where you lift each other up, and also you share some, good best practices, from that place as you were thinking about transitioning. So, what I want to ask you is that, how important was it important to get your girlfriends to really rally around this kind of new concept for you? Because sometimes, Twyler, our friends and our family see us one way, right? And as we evolve into something else, sometimes, not all, sometimes they can keep us, or even ourselves, kind of keep us in that space. Did you find that, the girlfriends or the allies that you have put together were ready for Twyler 2.0?
I think so. I think most importantly, though, they were ready to continue, those who attended the event, they were ready to continue that conversation because this was only, it was a dinner. So it was probably a 3 hour event. But they were ready to just dive a little deeper and see exactly what we could do with it. And so, and then as far as me personally, yes, because for those who weren't there, but as Dawn Still Halberd became my business partner at the time, and we would have these small cultivating events, whether in our homes or at girlfriends' homes, and talk about this retreat that we were creating and putting together. And everyone was so excited. So I would say yes, I think they were very excited about the opportunity to be a part of something that could be transformational for them as well as myself.
That's good, Twyla. Well, I certainly want to say, what do you think out of the three, right? Like I said, 4 years you've done it. Like, what's been the number one thing that women struggle with, especially the audience that you speak to? High profile women, really, that are, and they're high performers. What do you find as the thing that, is hard for women to cope with?
Turning it off, taking
Wow.
the break, taking the time for themselves, putting themselves first, literally taking 5 days and 4 nights to do a deep dive into who they are and not taking care of or putting everyone else first. And that's the hardest thing for these women to do because, culturally, we were not ever taught to do that. Culturally, we've always had to be the bearer of community, of our households, of our workplace. And so, I'm starting in this pivot now, spending more time around African American women and wellness, doing the research behind it, right? And so, what the research tells us is that the stress that we endure is there's such a difference in our health and our mental and emotional health, significant difference in others because of just being a Black woman. And so I don't think that story has been told, and I don't think we talk about it enough for us to even be forgiving enough to take time to take care of ourselves.
That's so good. I say it's good because this conversation, we have this conversation, and when you said learning how to be well in a space where, I'm moving around, because culturally we have, right? I was telling someone, it's like, I was told sleep when you die. Um Girl, if you ain't busy working on your business, you ain't doing nothing. Like, it was everything to keep you going, right? To keep yourself going. And so learning that space now and realizing that wellness, I think, needs or should be a core value for you, your business, and having wellness practices. So now that, Twyler, you've pivot, as the corporate meeting planner and running a successful company, how do you see in them is, or even if you even see it, is this something that, meeting planners, are you looking to do this for other corporate meeting planners to really, make sure that they are being well?
Yeah, not in and even beyond corporate meeting planners, it's all women. And I say high achieving because in high achieving is so relative, because you can be a stay at home mom and be high achieving, because getting those kids up every morning, getting them to school, taking them to soccer, football, track, getting them into college. I mean, that's high achieving. Taking care of a household, taking care of a church, if you're a first lady, if you are in a C-suite job, if you are an entrepreneur. But what's most important is this relates to women who don't spend enough time taking care of themselves because of the grind, right? And even in the social media post that I made today, as I look back over my life, in these 25 plus years. And certainly most of our bank accounts do not even compare to the work, the hours, the commitment, the above and beyond that we have put into our careers as entrepreneurs or even as corporate women, right? And so, as a meeting planner, you're the first one on at the conference and sometimes the last ones to leave, or maybe it's the AV guys loading out or something like that. But and I even talked to a couple of guys in that industry the other day, and we really just talked about how stressful life can be. And to your point, Larvetta, I was told the same thing. You can sleep when you die. Well, if you don't get enough sleep, you're going to die earlier. I mean, statistics just tells us and shows us that heart disease and breast cancer and cervical cancer are all a lot of times stress and diet related, because if you're mentally exhausted, how can you run your business well? If you are emotionally exhausted, how can you make good decisions, because you're running off of adrenaline and emotion, right? And so without taking time to take that break. And this is just one retreat. I am an advocate of taking a break. I don't care if it's just not doing anything all day, and forgiving yourself, not beating yourself up about it while you're taking a day to get rest. I was telling someone the other day, I said, even God took a day. So who are we? I said, I don't know in the Bible where it says, and after he rested on the seventh day, he came back and said, I should have, I could have, and I shouldn't have. I was like, he took a day of rest. And that was for us to take a cue and a sign. You need rest. Our bodies are made to work and then rest. We replenish when we sleep. That's why we should get so many hours of sleep a night, so that our bodies can be renewed and restored and revived for the next day. And so, not just meeting planners, but yes, I do plan to do something. And even in my public speaking that I'll start doing is doing it in our industry. And I've already, just through divine purpose, I've already started doing that. And so, but to your point, there are so many industries, entrepreneurs who are dealing with high levels of stress and medicating. Part of my story about making this pivot was also because I was taking pills to wake up and I was taking pills to go to sleep. And then I finally realized, like, there's something wrong with this. Like, there's got to be an alternative, because if you go to your doctor, he's going to or she's going to give you some antidepressants, or they're going to give you something that's kind of mind altering or something that will help you deal with it. But in the long term, there are effects and side effects to that. And so offering up and creating opportunities for these women to come and learn how to meditate, learn how to breathe, like literally breathing exercises, learning how to breathe and learning how to take time for you. It's critical to the survival of us having longevity.
I was I think it was recently, it was a while ago, and it said that the greatest gift that you can give yourself is to breathe in and breathe out. But it is the hardest gift for people to give to themselves. And, it sounded so simple, but I realized that people just inhale and exhale is hard. And never once, did I hear that. And I say some of this is, when you grew up, you didn't hear these things. So in your mind, you're like, oh, okay. And then you grow up and you're like, oh my gosh, this is hard to just breathe in and breathe out, breathe in and breathe out. And so I do think, and I do want to pose this question to you, not to put you on the spot, but I think it's important. I was recently at the International Leadership Summit. Big summit, right? People from all over, from ministry to the marketplace, to singers, creative. It was a number of things. We dealt with mental, we dealt with a lot of things. But one of the things that I thought was missing was the discussion around, it was some wellness. I'm not going to say they did have a master class that Dr. Nita Phillips did, but what I found, and you tell me if this is correct, within the church, and obviously you grew up that way too, is that within the church, we don't talk enough around this wellness, right? Ministry goes on forever. No one shuts down for, you can't shut down the sick, the shut in. Is this something too that was constructed, kind of in what I say, in organized church traditions?
I would say absolutely. I'm very, very, very fortunate to be under the leadership of Dr. Horace Smith. And so, because he is an MD, he knows the importance of mental and emotional and our spiritual wellness. And so, just today, he literally he was a part of a webinar online discussion kind of about this matter. And he talks about it often. And I even just joined a weight loss competition that we have at our church because and even last night, the session was about connecting journaling to your weight loss challenge and spending time in meditation and prayer. Now, I'm fortunate that I did grow up in the church, but also have learned what spiritual practices mean, not just going to church and not just being a member and not just attending a Bible study and Sunday school and or Sunday service, but outside of that, when it comes to your spiritual well-being, it should be exercised just like anything else. So if you want to get physically fit, you know that you have to lose weight, you know that you have to change your diet, and you know that you need to exercise, and that will help you to get fit. Well, it's just like your mental and emotional well-being. If you need to improve your mental and emotional well-being, your negative self-talk, your always not feeling so good, your anxiety, your stress, then you need to spend more time in prayer, in meditation, in journaling, and being still, being quiet, and being open, as what I say and what my saying is. Now, this has become a practice because me listening during the pandemic and was instructed by the Spirit to start a morning mindfulness component, which is prayer and meditation every morning from 5:30 to 6:30. And so I think we need to start offering and doing more of this in the church and actually providing resources and information on how it will impact and change your life. That you can't go to the gym once a week and think that you're going to lose 20 pounds. It's just not going to happen. You got to put more work in than that. You got to put more steps in. You have to put eating right in. It's the same thing that applies to your mental and emotional wellness. You can't just go to church on Sunday and think that you can live this, mentally and emotionally well-being type life. It's not going to happen. But that daily practice and that effort and that intention, which is what we talk about also at the retreat, will help you to pivot your life into being more peaceful, finding more joy, being more forgiving, to take time to rest, and also just being in tune to learning to live as well.
I mean, Twyla, I think, as I'm sitting here and just listening to you and being present, in this interview, one of the things that I'm hearing is that it's taking time for you. That's it, taking your time. And because you are the founder of I Am That Woman Retreat, now, can you just share with our listeners, for those that are listening and they want to, be a part of it? I want to first you to tell them, when is the next one? When is the next one where they can participate, as well as, a number of things that you might be having, that you have going on.
Absolutely. So one of the things that came back after the first and second retreat was women wanted to stay connected. And so instead of waiting 365 days for the next, and I mirror that too, I'm not going to send you to church on Sunday and everybody has a shout and hallelujah good time, and you come home and say, oh, church was so good today. And then you're like, oh, okay, what was the sermon? What was the title sermon? I don't know. It was just good. So I didn't want to create that in the retreat. I didn't want to create this, oh my God, I went to this wellness retreat and it was so good. And you come back and you're like, okay, well, what did you learn? I don't know. I just had a good time. So the retreat transitioned into the I Am That Woman movement. And the movement is ongoing programs and ongoing resources and events for women to stay connected. And so now you can, of course, follow us on social media. We're on all the platforms: Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, a little bit, but most of our information primarily lies on on Facebook and LinkedIn. We're also on Instagram, but we know that's where our target audience is. And so follow us, because again, if you really want to change your mental and emotional state, practice and do more prayer and meditation. That's a morning mindfulness. We have Monday through Friday, 5:30 to 6:30. We also have ongoing programs for the beginning of the year. Sherry Franklin came in. She did a heart meditation, and we did a vision board session, because you have to have a vision for your life. So what does that mean? So we had magazines and we had an opportunity for you to create what that looked like for you for the year. In June, we're doing a check-in, because we oftentimes fall off or forget. And so in June, we're going to have what's called a pop-up wellness Saturday. That's going to be June the 24th. And you can either bring your vision board back, or you can create a new vision board as we finish out the last six months of the year. And then we have ongoing things. And so we just had, the Kentucky Derby fundraiser, where it's essential to have, just fun in life, just coming out. It was just a fundraiser, just to have fellowship and networking and camaraderie. So that's important as well. And so staying connected with us, go on our website, iamthatwomanmovement.org. I am finalizing, which is another reason why God has been so gracious to have me do the pivot, where 80% of my time will be spent on the I Am That Woman movement, and about 20% spent on strategic events, not taking on any new clients, but still managing current and past clients. But we are, because it takes time. Event planning takes so much time, as you know, you've done events. And so we are literally finalizing when and where we're going to be in Scottsdale, Arizona. I do know that. It's always in October. I do know that. Our tentative dates are the 25th through the 29th. I do know that. So just finalizing our contract terms, our speakers. I'm excited about this year's programming. In the past, we've had 3 days or 2 days in the ballroom, and we have literally just had world renowned speakers: Susan Taylor, Kim Coles, Tracy Edmonds, Linda Johnson Rice, Tina Lifford, Mickey Taylor. I mean, Regina Bell. We've had ladies like that come in and pour into us. Connie Lindsay, I can go on, who come in and pour into us. This year, we're changing it up a little bit because we're in the Scottsdale area. And so we're going to have one day of programming. We will still address all of the 5 practicums that we talk about: our mental, emotional, physical, financial, and spiritual well-being. But on the next day, on Friday, we're actually venturing outside of the hotel, and we're going to Sedona, because Sedona is a very spiritual place. It has some amazing views and some amazing opportunities that we want to take advantage of while we're out there. And then Saturday will be our spa day. So we're doing things a little differently this year, but it's still going to be that much more rewarding and great for your mental, emotional, physical, financial, and spiritual wellness.
So let me just say this. I need you all to know this, to the people, because they need to know this. While we're talking about retreats and we're talking about this, I need people to understand that you have an experienced meeting planner. So people put together these amazing retreats, but they're not skilled in planning. I'm just throwing that out sometimes. So the fact that, Twyler, who is seasoned and experienced and understand, the ins and out logistically, she's going to make sure that everything has checked out, that you have an incredible and outstanding experience, because she once, and still does have her meeting planning business, but she is focused on wellness. And I need for people to understand that, as we continue, and we've been talking about this for a while, is that this whole thing of wellness. And I love that we get to talk about it as it relates to Black women and Black culture, because so many of what you see is we just, we fly, we get it in, we keep moving, we partying. But then there's just this segment that's a culture of like wellness and making that a priority. And it's a practice. It's not, clearly no one is saying, hey, I got it all together, but more like, hey, I'm on the journey of getting together. And I think that's what, this moment of wellness that we're sharing. And so I want to ask you, Twyler, what is one self-care practice that you implement, every day, every week? For some people, it may not be every day, but is there one practice that you do? And I think you've somewhat mentioned it, but something that you do for you only, that you've implemented.
Actually, just so the prayer and meditation that I've talked about, that God inspired me to start as a community, it's just a conference call line. And so, we always have it on our social media. But for anyone who's listening who may want to join that, the number is 605-313-5104. And the access code is 345235#. And again, that's 605-313-5104. And the access code is 345235#. So I do that in community, but as of recent, getting up at 5 a.m. to have that one-on-one time, right? So oftentimes when you do have a spiritual foundation, and God is taking you to another level, or God is taking you into a new season, He will call you. Now it's up to you to listen and obey, but He will call you into a time of really being in oneness, so that you do know how to allow your faith to lead and guide you, and you don't get in your own way. And so I think for me, that one practice is getting up at 5 and really being still and quiet myself, journaling, being in the Word, doing some devotion, and however really the Spirit leads me. Sometimes it's listening to a song, sometimes it's reading a certain scripture, but whatever it is. But that is my that's right now, that's my happy place, that has me literally where I am. So it's I think that's my one thing. There's many things that I do. And they all relate to, again, you can't leave one thing off. So for me, budgeting and finances was a big thing this year because I pretty much well knew I was going to make this pivot. And so some things had to change. And so being better about even learning how to budget better and finance better, because we have the ebbs and flows as an entrepreneur. And so knowing that my business was going to be shifting, that's something else, that I was like, okay, I got to take a deep dive into this on the wellness side, and really not just know it, but actually put some practices and some accountability in place to do that. But you asked one question, that was my one thing.
No, and I appreciate, and I think you brought up something that I think is so important. And we've been talking about this. We've been talking about, a lot of folks that we've had is just all about pivoting and finding kind of their why and what gets them, today and waking up that way. And the reason why we ask for that one thing is because oftentimes we feel like we've got to do these, I got to do this, I got to do this, but just having that one practice. And I appreciate you sharing that. And then I think the other part that we've also learned in this place of wellness, Twyler, is that a lot of people give their one thing and it's not something that costs anything. That's what's been crazy. So when you said budget, it's like the self-care we believe is, I mean, don't get me wrong, getting your hair, your feet, your nails, that's all are all very great things. So we don't say that, but just and when you speak from the emotional and mental wellness, I think a lot of folks have really just shared those moments that mindfulness and those stillness, really is their daily practice. So it's just amazing to me, just the things that people have shared. So I just want, everyone, if you're listening, we've Twyler Jenkins, and so she is the founder of I Am Woman Retreat. I'm sorry, I am that woman movement retreat. And I want to make sure that I say that because they do more than just retreats. They really are creating a movement of events throughout the land. And I say the land, both virtual as well as in different places across the world. And did I mention she's also my sorority sister? I just got to throw that in there just in case anybody wants to know, because, we are everywhere and we are powerful. So I do want to ask you this question as we close. Why do Black businesses matter?
Oh, Black businesses matter because our community matters, because the work and the service and those that we employ matter, because it helps to build economy and um, financial fortitude in our communities. And so Black businesses matter because we essentially are part of the fabric of this country. And so we've always uh, had businesses. We've always been in business, whether with each other or with other communities. But we matter because we have to be an economic force within our communities. And when I'm employed and I can employ others, that helps another household to have income, and that helps another household to be able to pour back into our communities. And so I would say we matter because our next generation matters.
Mhm. That's so powerful. Every time I ask that question, everyone delivers it very differently. And I think I love that you said the financial fortitude. Like, oh my gosh, that just resonated from that. And so making sure, and, in this space that you share, it's so incredible to sit here and have a conversation about wellness in this place of Black businesses, right? And so I feel like that's the space that we're now having, and having the joys, that our joy can lie in our wellness. I think that's another thing, which is going to bring me to my next question of what brings you joy.
Ah. Oh man, what brings me joy? Oh, there's so many things that brings me joy. I would say what brings me the most joy though is those enlightening downloads from God. Those just inspiring aha moments that I know myself I could have never thought of, dreamed of, witnessed, but through the divine, I am having an amazing experience, and especially when it relates to programming around the retreat. I get so excited when God just says, "Do this," and I'm like, wait, what? And then, like I said, it can be at 5 o'clock in the morning that I get a download about something in particular that only the divine can give. And that is what brings me joy.
Just absolutely lovely. But I do, I appreciate you sharing that piece. And as I was listening, the part that I would love for you to share, what did it take for you to go from this successful corporate event planning business to say, I am on the road, and you said it. I want to turn this 80% of my movement. I mean, focus 80% on my movement and 20% on my corporate event planning. But I want to just, for those that are kind of in that space, can you share what, maybe three things that you did or two things that you did and that you're still doing to pivot from one area to the next?
Praying, praying, and praying. Um, but seriously, I mean, yes, praying about it, and no, but also, it's the calling, right? And so when you know that what you may have been doing for 10, 15, 20, 30 years is just not it's just not bringing you joy anymore. It's not making your butterflies fly anymore. Perhaps it's telling you that you need to move on to your next. And so I think for me, I was sick and tired, as Fannie Lou Hamer said, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I was stressed. I didn't like the stress. I love what I do. I love creating. I love planning. But I say that it's probably one of the most unappreciated jobs that a person can have. And it requires so much work and thought process and detail and, I mean, organization. And, honestly, a lot of my clients, when you make it look easy, they don't even value, the compensation. They're like, oh, I mean, it can't be that hard. Well, yeah, it can be. Because you got to work with everybody. It's like leading an orchestra. Like everybody has to be on the same page of sheet music. And that's not always easy, because at least with the orchestra or band, everyone is looking at you. And so when you have 20 different vendors that you're working with, and you're relying on, it's a lot. And so I think for me, again, even when I turned 43, and that's almost 10 years ago now, that I really started doing some soul searching about, well, what can bring me joy? What can make me happy? Because life is too short. And so if you're doing something that's just not bringing you joy and happiness, especially if you're not being compensated for it, then perhaps you need to do some soul searching yourself and ask about that purpose. And for me, I started doing the soul searching, but I also was willing to do the work, because it's not going to happen overnight. But as you put one foot in front of the other, it will start happening, and you will start finding joy. And the finances and everything that's supposed to happen, it will come along, because you're just opened up to manifesting that which you really want and desire, and you've been destined to do anyway.
Oh my gosh, Twyla, you have been such an inspiration. Just being able to just share your journey. And I appreciate you for being here. And more importantly, I think it's so important for an entrepreneur to start one path and move on to something else. I think in corporate, it's like, hey, I did this and now I'm pivoting to something else. But it's okay, even as entrepreneurs, to say, I'm still an entrepreneur. I just don't sell that service no more. I don't make that product anymore. And I think you are a true testament of that, as someone who is a service based business that said, okay, I was in this, I was a service based, in doing corporate planning. Now you are in the service space of wellness, and wellness events. And I think that, and that's okay. And I think just being able to hear your story can bring so much inspiration for those who are entrepreneurs, and maybe that their time is up with that product or service. So thank you so much, my sister, my soror, my homegirl. I'm just full from this, because I just truly am just happy and proud of you in this pivot. I certainly feel that it is in you. You are walking in it. Every time I see you and you talk about it, it just lights you up, literally when you talk about it. And so I can feel it for you. I can totally feel it. And I'm super proud of you, and continue, success. I certainly want to get there, and I'm hoping that I'm going to get there one time. But I certainly am in support of you in this wellness journey and helping other women to be well and to breathe. So thank you so much for being an incredible guest. I so love this time with you. Every time we talk about wellness, girl, I feel like, okay, now it's time to take a nap. I'm like, after my interview, I'm like, okay, I think it was time for me to take it. I'm serious, like for real. When I have these guests and it's about wellness, it really makes me say, okay, let me go take a nap. Seriously.
Good.
Yeah, and I know you gonna say that. Good. That's the whole purpose, right? I love you. I'm so glad that you were able to join us. I know. So, hey guys, we've been trying to get to Twyler, but she's been so busy. We hadn't been able to nail her down, but we got her now.
Yes.
And I'm super excited that we were able to spend time with her and really learn about this wellness business. So thank you so much, Twyler. And as we close, just drop your handle for people to get in contact with you.
Absolutely. And thank you, Larvetta, for all that you have done and continue to do to support Black businesses. It's critical in our community. So thank you, because I know it's not easy. And I am too proud of you, Soror, for all that your business have become. You have been an amazing entrepreneur in this space, and marketing and promoting and doing what you do. And so certainly a business to be reckoned with. So thank you. You can find us on social media. So Twyler Jenkins, Twyler. Jenkins is I'm on Facebook, again, LinkedIn, Instagram, and then for the I Am That Woman movement, IATWMVMT, on Instagram, and then I Am That Woman movement on LinkedIn and on Facebook. Join our Facebook group, I Am That Woman movement, and Retreat is our Facebook group. Stay connected with us as well on our website, which is IamThatWomanMovement.org.
Woohoo! Well, thank you guys for tuning in with us. And listen, she shared that they do mindful meditation every day, Monday through Friday. So feel free to, as they say, rewind. I know I'm telling on myself, but you can just move the thing back so that you can hear that number again. But I'm going to have Twyler to give that number again for all of you all that may be interested in logging on. Can you give that number again?
Absolutely. And you don't have to say anything. So you can just tune in and just, wake yourself up out of your little slumber and sleep. I know it's early at 5:30. We do meditation from 5:30 to 6, and then prayer, and we take prayer requests. So if you're going through something, if you're having some challenges in life, if you're dealing with grief and sorrow, and you just want a community or want someone to pray for you, certainly call in even at 6 o'clock. And we're just on for a quick 30 minutes taking prayer requests, and then we take turns praying in the community. And so you can call in 605-313-5104. Again, 605-313-5104. The access code is 345235. 345235.
Yay. So guys, there you have it. And you heard that Twyler, she told us her real name. So you guys, we got it first at Black Businesses Matter. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
The Black Businesses Matter podcast is produced by the L3 Agency, a culturally sensitive influencer, marketing, and communications firm in Chicago, where relationships are our currency, passion is our profit maker, and people are our bottom line. Follow us on Instagram at Black Businesses Matter.